Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are actually going to resume our WC challenge, and this is going to be the part two. We'll be starting exactly where we had left in the previous video, and I think let's try to finish this today. I have not touched Rust or written any Rust in last 2 days, so maybe I'm a little rusty today. Let's see how it goes. I think I'm gonna need a few minutes to actually get a feel of what we were trying to solve and ultimately be able to solve it. Hopefully. So yes, the workspace looks clean. I'm already in the WCRS directory that where we were keeping everything. So let's get into Vim. I'll prefer to use Vim today. Maybe we can use VS Code, but okay, let's see. If there be something that I need to highlight and VS Code can do it better, I'll switch to VS Code. But for now, I'll stick with Vim. Okay, last I remember is that we were at a stage where, you know, we wanted to parse these two flags because passing both of them was resulting into an error. The last one was cargo run. Uh, Yep, the thread panicked because it was assuming that this is the first flag and this is actually the file name. And why was this? Why is that? This is because we are just looking at args.next, which gives us option, and then the next iteration or the next lookup into the iterator that we have gives us the file name. So this is where I would like to start changing things. Let's minimize everything if I can. No? Yes. So let's take a step back and see what we have in our hands. All right. So if you remember, we are supposed to, we are supposed to support 3 or 4 flags. Let me bring in Chrome, and let me also bring up the WC challenge. Yep. Let's move it to a different window, or maybe in. Yep. So in step one, we are supposed to support total 4 flags, I think. Yep. Hyphen C is for hyphen C. Let's note it down quickly. Oops. It was D. Yep. So hyphen C is, this is for outputs the number of bytes, and then we have hyphen L, which is for number of lines, or you can just simply say lines. The next one is hyphen W, which is about the number of words, or the count of words. And step 4 is hyphen M, which is about number of characters, hash. And I noticed something that the goal is to support the command line with hyphen M. This, if the current locale does not support multiple bytes, okay, ignore this. That's not the one I wanted to highlight. I remember somewhere it was mentioned that exclusiveness. Hmm. Yeah, if no option is if no options are provided, which is equivalent to hyphen C, hyphen L, hyphen W. All the options will be given. And I think hyphen C or hyphen M are mutually exclusive. I don't remember where did I read it. Uh, was it in hyphen C? Anyways, I don't want to spend too much time there, but I absolutely sure of that the fact that if hyphen M is given, hyphen C is not should not be included in the output, and if hyphen C is given, hyphen M or the number of characters should not be excluded included in the output. So this is MX or mutually exclusive to hyphen C. Okay. So how do we want to approach this? Initially, what we were doing is for all the arguments that we are receiving, we try to fetch an option. Okay. And an this is an iterator. Args is an iterator. So the way I'm thinking about this is we should be able to parse the functions or parse the arguments rather. Uh, Based on my little experience that I have with enums, be it in Rust or C Sharp, since I've worked with C Sharp in past, when you have a finite set of possibilities into with any type, in this case we can have only four kind of arguments. It could be either of them or it could be all of them, but you have a finite set of possibilities of options. So this is a good opportunity to use, or this is a good place to use enums. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's introduce our first enum, and this is going to be called as option. Not an option, basically these are flags that you pass on to your CLI. So the first flag I want to call it is num, let's call it bytes. Or we can rename every time we, if we needed. And this is going to be equal to hyphen C. And next one is lines. It's going to be hyphen L. Oops. There will be one problem though when we do a comparison, but let's do it afterwards. I can think of one problem, and probably I'll need to introduce one more thing. Let's introduce a function called parse flags, which should it return one flag or should it return multiple flags? Like, how do we represent that? This is a set of flags that we have received. Okay. What would be the right way? It so what if so there are two possibilities. Either the user puts in certain flags and we will have these flags populated, or the user does not push in or provide any flags. So there is a like on and off situation here. The flags are present and then flags are not present. Maybe not all of them are present, some of them are present. And when we have a situation like this, it's represented best with option. So option is an enum, and it has got two variants. Like there is a value, some value is present, otherwise there is no value or none. And that's exactly what we're going to leverage. But I still have the question, like, how do we represent that this flag is present? Okay. Could we not have I'm just doing it out loud. Maybe I'm wrong. So the only thing that comes to my mind as of now is hold everything into a struct. CMD options, like command options. And this could be um, again, I will use the exact same names. This could be bytes, and this is going to be a type of, is not need to be like exported or with camel case or with uppercase. They need not be uppercase. And this is again going to be an option of bool. What I'm trying to do here is this represents the case where the user has provided -c flag, which is to get number of bytes. So a user may want to get the number of bytes and may not want to get number of bytes. To cover both the scenarios, this value could be present or not be present. That's why we have an option. Similar way, we will have get number of lines. You could also have get number of words. We also have get number of characters. And this is going to be chars. Again, going to be an option of type bool. This is also going to be an words option of bool. Okay, I think I should remove the line space in between so that it fits into the screen well. And now I would prefer to have CMD options as command options as a return value or pass flags, meaning there could be like, again, we could cover a scenario where the command is invoked without any flags, and there is a scenario where the command is involved with certain flags are like being present. Okay, so this looks okayish. What's there here? Expected eye size found str. Is it to be, do we need to set a type? Uh, Interesting. Or wait, maybe. How do you define enum string enums in Rust? Rust example. Does it need to be? Oh, okay. Uh, okay. Let's quickly check. Okay. So it turns out that you cannot have, if you have an enum like this, like the way we want to have bytes, lines, and words, are enum variants. Each variant of an enum is assigned a single integer value. This is known as a discriminant. Okay. And are allowed to be integers, not arbitrary types like this. Okay. So we cannot have quotes and quotes. Okay. Although that may change in future. As of now, that's not the case. That certainly doesn't seem to be the case. If you want to be able to convert, then we will have to implement a function as stir or string function for that. And then we will have to. Okay. Interesting. Now I thought that this was possible. I Maybe I confused it with something else that I had seen in past. All right. So we will need to change this certainly. And okay. And so enums in Rust can also have functions attached to them. This makes enums very powerful in Rust as compared to other languages. Language like Go does not even have enums, unfortunately. So the way you add implementations to any type in Rust is by using this impl structure or implement a flag, and then we can have a function defined as str, which is going to return ampersand. I'm just following the one that we are seeing on the screen. I do know, since I have read about this, I do understand what this means, but I don't want to dive into it right now because it will be like shooting in the dark or like going down the rabbit hole, which I don't want to right now. Uh, Toolbar, just change the color, buddy. I like it green. Okay. So yes, this is actually what it's saying is um, this function will return a string string slice to be very specific because this is a reference. This is going to return a string slice, um, and then how long that string slice will live is defined by this stick static, and by tick that's the tick character, this one, and the static, what this tells Rust compiler that the strings returned from this function are supposed to live as long as the main function, as long as the program lives. So that's about the lifetime of a slice or a reference. So okay, this is getting ugly. Remember that, let's do this way. So if you, in this pass flag, if you define variable, say 9, the lifetime of x or the life of x will be scoped within these braces, right? This is the life, how long the variable x will live. Similar way, if I were to define a reference variable, let not this is not really a good example maybe. So y is now attached to a reference, and a reference is actually a variable, doesn't really make sense. If I were to return, so if you have something of the sort like this, let y be a string slice or a reference to a string, and this is hello. Now this is a better example. So the life of x and y is within this the scope of this. As long as the function is on the stack, these are alive, and as soon as the function is out of the stack, they are garbage collected, they are dropped. No garbage collection in Rust, they are dropped. So what if a function like this were to return a reference? So what if it returns a reference, meaning if it were to return, say, str, which is a string slice, or maybe if it returns a reference to I32, can I? Yes, you can actually return a reference to I32, but the problem is that how long will that reference live? A reference ultimately points or references to something in memory, right? What if what I'm trying to say is, could I return a reference to X? I could, right? I mean, that's still fine. Uh, I could do this, but the problem is X does not live as long as the returned value of this function lives. I wish I had time to explain this in a lot more detail, but think about it like this. There's a stack. Should I draw? Maybe I should draw. So imagine this. We have stack up here. This is your, not even stack. This is your memory. And then you have X being pushed onto this because in here you have this function that is uh, parse flags, and it declared a variable X and it assigned a value to the value was 9. So X holding in 9 is in memory. Now what you want to do this function from this function is to return a reference to that X, the value on in the memory, the address of that memory block where the variable lives. But the problem is X gets dropped right after this function. So X does not live, which means according to Rust's philosophy, X will be dropped and the memory will be cleaned. So we are actually returning a reference to a memory location which does not even exist. So will result in a dangling pointer problem. And I would love to talk about this when the time is right in a lot more detail, because this is something I learned very recently and I'm still learning about this. Very, very deep topic, needs a separate video on its own. So I will kind of stop here and continue with the current problem that we have. Don't need this. So, so hyphen the tick, this pattern of saying tick something is defining the lifetime of the string that is returned, a string slice that is returned from this function. And we're saying it should live as long as the program lives static. Let's jump back right here. Ooh. Let's do a quick match statement. Match self, and this is going to be, is it self? Is it not self like bytes? And what I want to return is -c. Okay, self, lines. I should be fine with the -c, -l. I'm not in the, I don't have the intention to solve the problem the best way. I just want to solve the problem, uh, hoping to solve the problem. Let's see how we can, how what we can achieve at the end. Self value is a keyword. Oh, reference to self. I can think of reference to self as the as what you have in Java. This, it's much like that. It refers to the own self and whatever it holds within inside it. As str, this, okay, you cannot find unit struct. Or is it that we need to use flag? Okay, sorry, my bad. I thought it will be able to identify. Okay, so we now have an implementation that says if we do an str, we will get the, the string flags. Now, really quickly, in within this, just fine. Inside parse flags, what I want to do is instead of reading our arguments in the main function should call parse flags, and in here we should be able to do the magic that we were doing here. So okay, uh, now if you notice for args that we also need to return after once the parse flag should also return the file name if it's present. So we need to also to provide a file name. I mean, when you just say file, it should also be fine. And then this is going to be a name of the okay, mismatch enum command options unit 9. So as of now, the compiler is failing or it's giving us an error. And the way to silence it is there's a macro called to do, and it will just take care of the return errors. It's easy. We are still working on this, so give us some time so we can focus on the args problem. Now that we have the arguments, what I want to do is loop over the args. So say arg maybe, which is going to be in args dot next. And then I want to match. So we will figure out the syntax part if I'm doing something wrong. But logically, this is what I'm trying to do is we have the arg fetched, and then I will loop over all the possibilities that we can have in terms of the arg. And arg is actually going to be a string of like, it's not a string slice, it's a string. There's a difference between string and string slice. Again, a topic for a different video, most probably. But in a nutshell, you can think of strings as something as a string is always kept on heap, and you can imagine it to be something of the form like this. So you have your memory, um, the memory exactly, but heap, and you put in a string there. Say hello, right? Now this is a string that lives on heap. What is a string slice then? String slice. This. How do I explain this? A string slice is a view into this particular string. So it does not have it does not have the ownership of this. It just have a reference to this particular string. Okay. So if I want to say x equals, you must have seen this something like hello. This will create a string and put it on heap. Now when I say y is of type string slice, and I want to have a view into the string x, but I only want to have from index 0 to say 2, which will give me eventually this will result into e and hell, hel. So strings, like the uppercase string, is actually is it creates a string that lives on your heap. Ampersand str is a reference to a string, or that's why it's called string slice. It's a reference to a string, which it so we cannot mutate mutate y. We can actually just have a view into the string which is owned by someone else. It's more or less, you can think of it as being enclosed into a room, and there is some data. You open a window for someone at using for y, and then you let them see what is inside the room. That's how I try to understand it. While this capital string is actually the data in itself. It's it seems like it seems daunting coming from a different language, because you can do a lot of stuff with bare strings, but behind the scenes it does a lot of string things for you. But in Rust, it's not the case. This is a growable string. This, on the other hand, is a reference to a string, the first byte of that string, or any byte that you allocate here. And then it's just a reference. And another confusion that I can add in your head is references are different than pointers in Rust. References are not, rather, references and pointers are have different meaning when people talk about them in Rust. Reference is not always used with pointers in mind. Like we are returning references. They are memory address or memory pointers, but they are not always pointers. I don't know. Maybe I'm just confusing even further, but ignore that for now. So what we want to do is match args, which is a type of capital string, and we want to match this against flags. This is going to be a challenge because flag um, there's a function, I think there's a method available on it which can give us a string slice as str, and this should also give us have this function shown the usage. What is the name of the flag that I've created? The what is the name of the flag? I forgot the name of the flags. Okay, is it bytes? If it is byte, we want to create the command options. Let's call it opts, and this is going to be cmd options. Can we interesting, we also now just got a new problem. How do we initialize it? Because if we do an empty initialization in like this, Rust will complain because it says, you have just created or initialized a struct, but you have not assigned any value to those fields. So this is where Rust is trying to, trying to make sure that either you initialize them to the default values or you assign them values on your own. You take the responsibility of assigning them, or you tell me to the compiler, me being the compiler. So the compiler is saying that either you take the responsibility of assigning them, or you tell me that go ahead, compiler, do the magic and assign those values, the default values that they can hold. And probably that's what we want to do. We want to have these by default initialized to their default values, which will be none in every case. And this is so common to have in Rust, is that you can actually have something like derive. I'll just talk about derive, what it is. And now what we can actually do is use a function called default. So this line here is an annotation in Rust. We are annotating our type struct command options, and we are telling the Rust compiler that we want to use the default values for these fields at some point. So go ahead and you generate all the boilerplate code that is required to get them the default values. And all I want to do in my code is just say, when I'm initializing this command options, set them to default or initialize them with the default values. And this will do, this has solved our error message. So we have initialized the flags to, or options to, default values. Everything is none as of now. Option defaults to none. And now we want to mutate it. We want it to be mutable so that when we get a match for, say, bytes, all we want to do is we want to say opts dot bytes equals sum true. And we'll look at what the error message is. Mismatch types found flag, because we need to do dot as str. Oh, I think that will also complain. Nope. I expected a pattern, found a method call. This is going to be problematic. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. We will try to use this flag colon colon or the enum flags, but just for us to be able to finish what we have started, let's do it easier way for now instead of having an enum. So I would say if it is hyphen b, we not hyphen b, hyphen c, we are saying now what's the problem with this? Okay, it's fine. Hyphen c, if it's hyphen c, we return some bytes, and if it is hyphen l, and similarly if it is hyphen l hyphen w, we say this is the one, hyphen m, so this is going to be lines, words, and this is going to be right. And this is still complaining because since we are comparing to a string can be anything, which means we need to also provide a wild card that, other than these, if there is anything, we just want to return none. No, in fact, no. We also want to have one more case. Uh, if it doesn't match, this is actually going to be our our file name. And this is a string, so we pass in arg. Now, once we have the options sorted out, we just want to return options. And the way to do it is by saying that we are returning some ops. And like that, we should have our options. Unfortunately, we're not able to use this. I thought this should work, but that's not the case. I would like to revisit if time permits to the flags, but for now we have our flags being passed, and how do we want to use this? Okay, let options be equal to parse flags, and this will return an option of command options dot we can unwrap, and then we can pass in a reference to options dot. Okay, options dot file dot wrap. Okay. I'm just trying to make it compile. Why did I have to do this? Because options.file is also wrapped in within an enum option, and that's why I have to unwrap it, assuming that the value is actually not none, which is what I will try to do for the first test at least, and then we can always refine this to do better. and maybe uh, can actually go ahead and move this out, take it up full screen. Okay, and what else? So if we don't really need this anymore, all we need if ops dot what is the file size, if bytes ops dot bytes dot unwrap. This is not the right way or not the best way to do it, but as of now, I'm just want to proceed, like be able to finally run it. And this is going to be ops dot lines dot unwrap. Just want to see whether we are able to run it or not. That's how I usually approach to a problem. I just want it to be functioning at first, and then we can always come back and refine, put all the magic that we can, with everything Rust, just bump into it, all the bytes that we know. So let's try to run this if we can. Unwrap on none. We failed at line number 6. Line 6, it failed because it was not able to get the name of the file. What did I run? I did provide the name of the file, which means somewhere something is failing. At this point, I love to have unit tests, but it would be like getting into another discussion, off topic discussion. For loop over an option. Args dot next. Interesting. I didn't even realize that is it, does it return? Oh, okay. It the iterator that we have, it returns an option of t. So we need to option dot in wait. Is it how is it even comparing? Now this is a time where I could use an IDE. Oops, sorry for the bright light. Let's do a font set to 23. And we should also overlap. What I'm trying to check is, are we doing it all wrong? Which is fine by me if we are, because we are ultimately learning. So this is a struct which is okay. This is a string, and args.next is an option. To iterate over args, remove the call to next. Oh, okay. Ah, so we don't need it to be we don't need to We don't need to enumerate or iterate over it like that. So this is the right way. Interesting. I didn't even realize that we were using an iterator, but looping over it the same we were trying to get the next part because for we internally use the next. Okay, okay, we learned. Voila, we are finally able to parse the flags. We are also able to run it, and maybe what we can do is for the fun or just to see what all the values that we are getting, we can actually print. Let's do a println to, or maybe you can have display for ops. Why is it complaining? Does not implement debug. Okay. So for since command options is a custom struct representation that we have defined, there are two traits that are really important. One is uh, actually we have already talked about one of them, default. The other two are display, and the other one is debug. If you in your print ln statements, or if you when you are printing something or any type, that function that type needs to have an implementation for the display trait, and I think the function that they have is fn display only, or is it print or to string or string? I am so confused. So if you want to use debug like this, what it does is in the println, if you want to use this annotation string this internally calls makes a call to the display creates function. Let me quickly grab display. If I can, no, no, we can't derive it. Just think it's standard fmt. Too bad. I don't remember what the rate is. Is standard format display. And then inside display, there is a function that you need to implement. Yes, fn format. Okay. So format is the function. So when we do this syntax in our println or eprintln, this will internally call the fmt function from the display trait. This debug will actually call to be able to use a print, or to be able to print the debug information or debug format of your type. You need to use the annotation or format like this, and this will actually invoke the fmt macros. Okay, this is a macro. This will actually, this you can derive it, and I don't know what internally debug does. Not looked into the code yet, but it will help us print the debug information of our type. And just like derive, or just like default, you can actually derive it from, and the compiler will plug in the compiler will generate the boilerplate code to print that debug information for us. And now we should be able to print more information. So we are getting command options as this. byte sum true because we are passing in the flag hyphen C. Lines is set to true because we're passing in hyphen L. Words are none, characters are none, and then we have a file, which is cool. Um, so now what we need is to be able to uh, is to be finally able to print out the information about words and characters. So in our read from function, we take in a file and then we return an I size, which is the number of lines, I think. Yeah, we're incrementing a line count. So maybe we should rename it to line count. And I think we can now jump back to Vim. So we're doing a line count. We also want to do a word count. And so each line has got a few certain words. And maybe what we can do is once we have the line, we can split it based on space character, and then count the number of words in each line, or get the size of the vector or slice, whatever we are getting from the split function. Let's do a quick check. What do we get from standard library on those? Standard.rs. There must be something called split, not slit. Not the type, but the function. Returns an iterator over substrings of the given string slice separated by a pattern restricted to returning at most n items. Okay. So, yep, this is exactly what we want. So we have a string, we have a line, and then what we want is to split it. We don't want an n split, but we want everything that is there, and then just collect it based on space pattern. Split, then there must be something called as split. Yep, there we go. This is the one. And then we can get the length of the vector, which should give us the number of words. Okay. All right. So in our okay, which means once we have got the line, we certainly want to uh, increment the line count, but at the same time, we want to get the number of words. So as we just saw, what's the type of line? Line is a result of string and error. So we can do an unwrap line equals, I'm using shadowing again, line dot unwrap, which will give us the capital size, an actual string. And then can I trim the ends so that there are no spaces at the end or the beginning of the file of the line? But that should be done after we convert it to a string slice. And maybe until now we can just do a trim. And once we have it words be an it words be a vector of substrings or the subcharacters maybe, and which is going to be line dot split, and split at, is does it use a string pattern or what? Character. Correct. Split the line based on the space character and then collect it into a vector, which is fine. We also need to make it mutable, I think. Oh, more problems. Let's see. Does not need to be mutable. Sorry. Temporary variable value dropped while borrowed. Using a len binding to create a longer. We are using let. Is it like okay, maybe what it's saying is like this. But maybe I don't need to do this. Maybe I could just go in here. Right. And then we have words, which is a vector. And now what I want to do is that we should be able to return I size or U size is going to be a number of the number of words. This is getting very confusing because those it's although so this is what I've just done. What I've just done is this will create a tuple. A tuple is you can think of tuples as an array, but it has got different. It can have different types of elements clubbed together, and tuples are tuples don't grow, so they have very fixed size of what they will contain. uh, what I would like to do is maybe I wonder if we should I wonder if we should at some point return a struct uh, which has all the output information like number of words, number of characters, and number of lines, and maybe something else if required. But for now, just for us to be able to do it, or at least try and run this. So we're getting number of words per line. We also need total number of words. Uh, Mutable word count is 0. then I would I want to do is word count plus equals words dot length. In case of error, we were returning -1 to represent that there was error reading the lines, and this could be set to 0. And we can still use -1 to be like the number of lines were corrupted. It will be word count. Okay. We have an error somewhere. It should be here somewhere. Opt dot lines dot wrap print a line count. Now it returns two things. Instead of line count, I would say lines and words. And in here we can say lines these. And maybe do a tab character, and then we say words. How many words? These many words. Okay. Seems like we can try and run it. What the heck? We don't need this debug information anymore. And yes, this is actually we are printing in file size. Choose this. Okay. And the number of characters, how do you find the number of characters? We have got the words, and I think you will need to split it further. Or is there a better way to do this? So, you know what? I'm going to leave it right here. What you can do as an exercise for your own self, you can actually change this function to return a struct like of this kind, a struct as output, which will have fields like the number of lines, words. I can have characters, and you can also have say memory, but it does need to have memory. Memory is already present above, and then you can just print those elements. What I'm more interested in is figuring out a way to use actual enums instead of having to hard code these two slangs. So I will switch over to VS Code for a bit and see if I can get some help from the editor. So FN read is fine. So arg is a string, which is cool. What I want to do is do a match on So what I'm trying to do is just if we can solve one case, the rest is fairly easy. So let's try and get it to compilation. One thing that does come to my mind instead of returning, first thing is, do we really need? Uh, what if I don't have this? Because it was earlier complaining that you can, it should be an expression, not a function call. So could we do something else? Dot as str. Let's do some searches. Comparing strings, string in Rust match. It's again talking about uh, this command, which is something we are already doing. I just want to have a match with an enum. So maybe comparing string with enums. Wait, this one is your current issue, which is can be fixed easily. I just removed the enum and matched based off the. Okay, this is what we were doing as well. And here's a good example. Yep, this is exactly what we are doing. Not interested in this one. He also created a reference to us. Okay. Uh, I don't want to have string literals here. I, I want it to be enum. Let's read command. I don't see. We have string enums. There are a billion different ways you can handle this, but you only listed two, which two of them are something I'm not interested in. Media type enum. Okay. Why can I not do something like this? Okay. all, all the things that I've seen so far makes me wonder: is it that we are doing something wrong, or what's happening? Am I looking at it the wrong way? Because it seems to be the way of doing this. If you want to have some representation of your enum, you do as str, which is fine. We better to use the forms to trade. That way it can be used as parse. Something definitely worth exploring, and I would love to spend more time on this. We're already quite ahead of an hour. So, okay, I would like to stop here. And regarding this, how to handle the flags better instead of having them hard coded, I would like to continue doing some research on this. And if I can figure out the answer, if you know the answer, do let me know in the comment section. And if I'm able to figure something out on my own, I would love to revisit this and talk about it in one of the videos. Something very interested that I would love to try. But as of now, I think it does make sense to take a step back here, take a pause, and maybe just connect next time. It's always good to take a break and revisit it after a certain amount of time. Yes, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next challenge. I would really appreciate if you continued solving this in a different way. And one more thing, I can share one more reference. I did solve WC challenge a while ago, like about 6 or 7 months ago. You can find it on GitHub, Gaurav Gehlot, and you should see a repository pinned onto my page, I think. Under all the information that is buried here, you should see getting rusty. And in here, I think I have WCRS, which I solved about 7 months ago. It does take a different approach because I used a crate called Clap, and it has a lot more information and a different way to solve this. You can definitely check it out. I'll leave the link in description as well. And yep, I think that's it. If you would love to connect with me, you should be seeing the handles on your screen. You can connect with me on Twitter, or you can search me over LinkedIn as well if you'd like. That's it for now. Thank you. Have a good day.